I would like to find out, first and foremost, how many technologists do we have here? How many IT-type people, technology engineers, systems programmers, internet configuration specialists, and that kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, let's say a dozen, maybe 12 people, okay? That's the number of Jesus' disciples, that's not bad. How many non-technology people do we have? Administrators, managers, servants of the Lord in other areas other than in technology. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14. Okay, excellent. We're very well balanced, about 14. Very well balanced. Let's just have a word of prayer, and I'll ask one of you to pray for me. My sister, please.
Okay, let's pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, thank you again. We welcome you again to this session. Please be with Mr. Ndlovu as he presents and be with us as we listen so that we can hear more, learn more for your work. We pray this in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Now, let me just talk a little bit more about myself. You already understand that you cannot mess or joke with my bank account. I think Lusekelo has put that beyond any reasonable doubt. I have so much in that bank account. Let's not talk about what I can do with it, but it's just lots of zeros. Occasionally, those zeros do disappear, as you got to know not so long ago. But basically, my original training was in engineering. That's what my original training was in. Okay? So I came out of college with a master's in computer engineering, in IT and systems. Okay? That's what I studied. When I finished that, I went back to Zimbabwe, and then I taught. That was my first job. I taught. Then I worked as an engineer, fixing systems when they break down, setting up networks in defense, in energy, in many different sectors. Then I joined Coopers & Lybrand, the consultants, as a consultant, a management consultant implementing technologies. And somewhere along the way, my career evolved, and because I realized that the challenge in setting up systems was not so much the issue of setting up the systems. The systems themselves were not the challenge. So it became evident that Microsoft and IBM products are the same here and in Western Europe and in the Americas. And by the way, I went to school in the Soviet Union. So I've worked in Eastern Europe, I've worked in Western Europe, and I've worked in Africa as well. And the technology would be the same. The piece of hardware is the same. The software is the same, but there is something called the people-ware, which makes the difference. And it was important for us to understand the role of the people-ware in making sure that the hardware and the software will come together. And so there I was, now working for PricewaterhouseCoopers. In fact, my transfer from Harare to Nairobi was a secondment from PricewaterhouseCoopers in Zimbabwe to PricewaterhouseCoopers in Kenya. Then the Lord continued to bless, and I eventually became a partner with KPMG, which is one of the top 5 consulting firms, implementing systems. I was in charge of IT. I was the partner in charge of IT consulting for KPMG in East Africa. And so as I was doing this, it became evident, increasingly evident, that actually the focus is on the wrong side. We are focusing so much on the technology, and we are forgetting that technology succeeds or fails proportionate to the extent of the resistance to that technology by the people. And so I shifted focus, and I started to study strategy and change management. And one of the things that I came up with is that actually change management is a misnomer. It's not the change that we manage, it's the resistance. So it should actually be called resistance management, because the change is something that often we cannot do much about. Okay? And so in that whole area, it became clear to me that what we should focus on is looking at how we can have the people-ware ready to accept the hardware and the software. The essence of the context became what was paramount. And so what I'd like to talk to you today, what I'd like to address myself to, is the issue of strategy and resistance to change as it pertains specifically to to implementation of new technologies, especially in developing economies. And that is a subject that's very dear to my heart. Lusegelo already said, I'm an executive fellow at Strathmore Business School. I teach strategy and change management there. Now, let's just roll back and ask ourselves, what is the history of evolution of technology? There used to be in the 70s a term called IBM compatible, where everyone wanted to be compatible with a particular brand. At that stage, we can say very safely that all solutions were technology-driven. Technology is the one that determined. In fact, at that time, you had to have a PC on your desk, even if you didn't know how to turn it on, because it also became a status symbol. There was technology for the sake of technology. And if it was not IBM compatible, there was a big problem. But if someone came to you and asked you, what is the problem with it not being IBM compatible, you didn't quite know. You will find that that cycle is starting to repeat itself. So technology for the sake of, so the technologists, and that's the time I came out of college, that's when I graduated. And it was important when someone asks you, what have you done? And you say, you know what, I'm an engineer, I'm a computer engineer. And you said that and it made you feel slightly taller. The fact that you understand technology. And can I tell you something? You know, when technology people talk among themselves, when IT guys, and I've been an IT manager, as I was coming up the ranks, actually I've been an IT manager many times. I've been an IT manager for the power sector in Zimbabwe, I've been an IT manager in defense as well. But why am I working from the user end now? Because I know when technology people speak, you know, when IT guys speak among themselves and they discuss the problems they have, as Lusegelo said, you know, when there's all this issue about support and the kind of support requests that come to the help desk and all that stuff, when an IT guy feels he has really insulted another IT guy, you know what they say? Now you're starting to behave like a user. That's supposed to be the ultimate insult. I mean, how can you, a whole literate guy in technology, behave like a user? And so we have this whole issue. And I know that among the user guys also, the whole issue is, you know, when people look like they're starting to talk in a lot of abbreviations and very high-tech, very out in space, very nebulous, very abstract terminology, people say, you're now starting to behave like an IT guy. And so we continue to drift apart. And what is important is for us to be able to bridge that gap. Now, one of my clients here, for those, how many of us work in Kenya? Because I know this is an international conference. How many of us live and work in Kenya? Okay, so maybe not that many. But anyway, one of my clients is the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Those of you who know what is happening is that we automated the Nairobi Stock Exchange from what they used to call an open call-out system. In other words, they used to shout out the prices of the shares and so on, and then they would match them to what we're doing now, where the phase one was trading on the floor, okay, using computers on the floor in a local area network, where they would submit the different bids and offers. That is the buy and the sell side of the shares from their different clients. The brokers would do that, and then the computer engine would match them. Okay? Then phase two was to take that facility out to their offices. So now they trade even from the comfort of their offices. They don't even have to. Now the resistance, that project, just to initiate it, took 18 months. And the resistance had nothing to do with the technology. I took a team of brokers and staff of Nairobi Stock Exchange to Colombo in Sri Lanka just to show them a model of a similar setup that was happening. But the challenge was not the technology. And I kept mentioning this to the chairman of the exchange. The challenge is not the technology. The challenge is the resistance to change by the brokers. Why? Because they feel there is a shift, there is some kind of a power shift on the ground on which they are standing. They feel that, you know what, we are entering into unfamiliar ground. And that which we used to use, which is manual trading, you can replace it with manual evangelism, is now changing. Because now we are going into electronic trading. You can replace it with internet evangelism. So it's not the technology. The internet is quite ready to have us evangelize through it. So let's not blame the internet. What we need to be very clear about is that the challenge, and it has to be the challenge is for us to articulate our proposal as succinctly in such that whoever is listening to it, they hear it as a persuasive and compelling articulation of that which we are attempting to achieve. And that is what it is. Then there are those who say to us, you are bringing things of the world into the church. My Bible tells me that all knowledge comes from God. Let's go to, who have got their Bibles here? Okay, let's go to Exodus 31 and read verse 1, 2, and 3. Let's just hear what the Bible says about this whole province of knowledge. Exodus 31, verse 1, 2, and 3. Hear what the Bible says. You are now bringing things of the world into our church. Those are the accusations. Who can give us that? Then the Lord says to Moses.
See, I have chosen Bezalel.
Who chose Bezalel? God. Okay, next.
The son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah.
Yes.
And I have filled him with the Spirit of
Who
God.
filled him with the Spirit?
With skill.
Okay, let's count those. Number 1, skill.
Ability.
And
knowledge in all kinds of crafts.
In all kinds of crafts. Who has got a different version? I see everyone has got the same version. Okay, fine. But basically, that's what the Bible is telling us, isn't it? Let's go to Colossians 2 and read verse 2 and 3. Just here. So we've seen that God himself is the one who is the source of all knowledge. Let's go to Colossians 2, verse 2 and 3. Hear what the Bible tells us.
My purpose is that they may be encouraged in heart and united in love, so that they may have the full riches of complete understanding, in order that they may know the mystery of God.
The mystery of God, verse 3.
In whom are hidden all treasures of wisdom and knowledge.
Or in whom are hidden some treasures? Some of the treasures?
No.
All treasures of knowledge and wisdom. So there I am. By the way, sorry, I didn't tell you this, but I'm also the strategy consultant for the union. I've been conducting strategy training for the union, and part of the issue we are having, because we can speak openly here because we're all Adventists, is that there is that issue that how can you bring this concept of corporate strategy? Corporate means a company in the private sector. No. Corporate says many people together working for a common cause. That's what corporate means. So anyway, my Bible is telling me that all knowledge, in fact, my Bible is telling me that the treasures of all knowledge and wisdom are hidden in whom? In Christ. We're not going to turn this into a sermon, but we know that in Ephesians 1, verse 17, Paul prays for the church in Ephesus for the knowledge, for wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of Christ. So there is absolute clarity that knowledge comes from God. All knowledge comes from the fact that we can then use it for whatever we decide to. That's our own problem. That's why we can use laser technology to guide ballistic missiles to bomb people. We can use that same laser technology to do very intricate operational procedures in a hospital theater to save lives. So I think we need to be absolutely clear in terms of that which we mean when we start to hide behind the internet.